All right, welcome to our week 4 session. We are talking about persuasive writing this week. You guys are working on that persuasive essay for me, and I want to just talk with you a little bit about different arguments and how those arguments persuade an audience to action. So we're going to do a little overview of argument, and we're going to evaluate some advertisements for persuasive techniques. These same persuasive techniques can be employed in our writing, and we're going to focus on how those persuasive techniques impact the overall message of the advertisements, and then how you can implement those into your writing. So first, let's talk about what we identify as the idea of persuasion, what this message means to you, what this word means to you, and what experience do you have persuading an audience? I bet you have more experience than you think you do. We persuade each other or family members or friends all the time. If you are trying to persuade your mom to let you go to a friend's house when your homework hasn't been completed yet, or trying to convince your dad to let you borrow the car to go out with your friends. For me, my son tries to persuade me all the time to let him play more video games. So depending on the basis of your argument and the evidence and the arguments that you bring with you to the persuasion techniques, you may or may not be successful. My son is super persistent, but not necessarily always successful in his endeavors to play video games when he wants to. So I want you to take a minute and reflect on where you see persuasion in our daily lives and what makes persuasion effective. When somebody's trying to persuade you to do something, what techniques do they use? What do you find is effective on you if people are trying to persuade you to do something? And while you think about that, I'm going to give you the first 2 letters of your access code. Now, after the video, you're going to take the quiz embedded in the course. You're going to go to the quizzes tab in our class, click on the week 4 session, and you're going to enter an access code. The first 2 letters of that access code are T and R. T and R. They're all lowercase, and there won't be any spaces. So the first 2 letters are T and R. Please write those down so that you can keep track of all the letters by the end. All right, so when you think about what persuasion means to you, persuading somebody is convincing them to come to our side, right? To believe the way that we do. And we see this everywhere in our world. We see it in advertising. We see it, like I mentioned, when we're talking to our parents or our friends, etc. And we see it in the news, and it's everywhere. So I want to evaluate some advertisements for persuasion techniques, and then we're going to talk about those different techniques and how they impact us. So this is like let's call this like a pre-test. We're going to evaluate this ad and see what we can identify that makes it impactful and effective and powerful, and then we're going to see if we're right when we look at the techniques, persuasive techniques, later in the video. So if you take a look at this ad, I'm sure you're all familiar with this type of ad. We see them on TV, we see them in magazines. Now with social media, you see different social media platforms promoting ads like this. This little puppy, it looks super sad, right, in this picture. And the tagline says, "Waiting for you, will you give her a home?" Now, the other information that's kind of blurry there is just how to contact the agency that has this dog for adoption. But basically, they're tugging at our heartstrings, right? What makes it effective? I mean, if you don't like dogs, maybe it won't work on you. But I find it effective because I want to help this dog. I feel sad for her. I look at her sad little eyes. It'd be different if she was running around and jumping and playing. It might not work so well. It makes it effective that this dog looks sad. And identifying the audience, waiting for you. This dog's waiting for me to give her a home. That's what makes it powerful, is it gives us ownership over this animal that we've never seen before. So in using this technique of identifying the audience specifically and working to explain to us what we can do to help the dog, it's impactful. It might not make me run out and adopt that specific dog, but it might make me think about adopting a dog in the future. All right, a claim is what we need to make our argument successful. So the claim is that that dog was waiting for us, right? So when you're writing an argument, and a persuasive argument, we need to make a claim. What is the main purpose of the essay? And it should assert something to the audience. So just like that ad's telling us this dog needs a home, you need to help this dog. That's trying to persuade us to come and take the dog home. When you're writing your persuasive argument, you're doing the same thing. Depending on your topic, you're going to identify your claim in your thesis statement, and then you're going to explain in your essay using reasoning and evidence why we should believe the way that you do. So in the thesis statement, your audience should know exactly what your claim is and what your belief is. So you don't want it to be wishy-washy. You want it to be like stated purposefully and with direction. So think about what topics might make good persuasive essays. They should be obviously something that's arguable. It can't be just a stated fact because nobody can really argue with the fact. But you have to identify what that argument is and identify it specifically in the thesis to showcase your side of that argument. Oh, check out those ears on that little munchkin. This is an animal-heavy presentation today, if you can't tell. Real quick, before we talk about support and what types of support we can include in a persuasive essay, the next letter in your access code is the letter E. So you want to write that down. I've given you 2 letters previously, and this is the 3rd letter. It's the letter E. So you should have 3 total letters written down. All right, so support. This little guy is ready to hear all about it. When you are being persuaded, what types of support convinces you? And I asked you that earlier when you're thinking about what's effective, what works on you, especially when it comes to the welfare of children or animals. The emotional plea always works on me. Like I always want to help children or animals in need. So those things work on me. But think about the reasons. The reasons explain your belief. They justify your stance. So you have to be able to explain why. These are like the because. You should come to my side of the argument because. So you want to identify what explains your belief and what justifies your stance. So if we are talking about homeless animals, you should come and adopt an animal because there are so many homeless pets, period. That's a because, that's a reason. You should not buy your dog, you should adopt your dog because there are so many dogs that need homes. This justifies your stance, right? It's given me a reason I should adopt. Then evidence. The evidence are the facts, statistics, and the examples. How many homeless pets are there in the United States? How many people adopt animals per year? How many animals are euthanized because they don't find homes in time? So those would be facts and statistics and examples to back up my claim that adopting is better that adopting is the better course of action. All right, so your counter-argument. Why would we include the counter-argument in a persuasive essay? This is to negate any claim someone with an opposing viewpoint can make. So, for example, if I'm sticking with my persuasive argument that we should adopt animals, then my counter argument might be, well, if I buy my dog from a breeder and I buy my dog as a puppy, then I can, I know the parentage of the animal, I know the history of the animal, and I can understand what the animal is bringing into my home. So that would be the counter argument, right? Well, some people might say that buying the animal is better because you have history and you understand where the animal is coming from. So you would need to counter that opposing argument in your essay. The whole purpose of a counter argument is to understand where your opponent is going to be coming from and squash the argument before it can make the light of day, right? Hey, some people say you should do this, but the reason you should not do that is you can adopt puppies, if that's what you're looking for, from the Humane Society. They often have puppies. They have intake history on animals so that you can know where an animal is coming from and what their experiences have been before they come into your home. So we can find the counter-argument and then we can squash it before it sees the light of day. All right, so now let's talk about some of these strategies. The idea of ethos, logos, and pathos. These are the things when we look at ads, or like if we look at ads or look at arguments, we want to have a credible. We want to be listening to a credible argument from a credible speaker that's logical, but then we also want to maybe hit our audience's emotions. So when we look at these items, ethos is the writer's credibility. Do you seem to know what you're talking about? Are you using evidence and facts? You're not just basing this all on opinion and conjecture. You actually did research. You know what you're talking about. So when you think about advertising, advertisements use celebrities all the time to promote their products. And if it comes down to if we like the celebrity and we trust the celebrity, we're like, oh, okay, I might try that product because that celebrity is using that product. Or it helps us remember the product because we have a connection with that celebrity. So that celebrity is credible. So when you're looking at it from a writing perspective, if I'm reading an article about child psychology by a well-known child psychologist, that writer is credible. If I'm, just reading a random blog on a website, and I don't know anything about the writer, I'm less likely to believe what that person is saying. So we want to make sure that we lend credibility to our own writing by making sure that we have done our due diligence and our research and have included specific evidence and statistics to back up what we're saying to justify that credibility. The logos is our logical reasoning. This is those because statements and the evidence statements. This allows us to say, hey, look, smoking should be banned in the United States because it has the highest, haven't done the research. This is just me giving an example because it has one of the highest rates of death in cancer. 90% of people who smoke end up with some sort of smoking-related illness. We would include that. That's logical reasoning. Say, look, you should quit smoking because this number of people die per year from smoking-related illness. Pathos is the audience's emotion. This is where we look back at that advertisement with the little dog. That got my heartstrings because I felt sad for that dog. That pathos is capitalizing on my emotional state. So this is a little bit more specific. If we take a look at advertisement as a form of argument, you can see, again, with the ethos, we have Julia Roberts in that ad for Lancome. If people identify with a celebrity, they're more likely to purchase that advertisement. Or sometimes someone in uniform, if you're looking at an advertisement for the military or for an airline, if we see somebody in uniform, that lends authority to the person in the advertisement. Or if you're at a conference and the person is well dressed, they look like they have an authority, then we tend to give them credibility. Or by professional looking people. If it looks like it's made by a professional, we're more likely to trust it. Pathos, again, is that argument based on emotions. This is where we trigger fear, desire, sympathy, anger, fear. If you don't do this, then something bad's going to happen. Empathy, sad kids, cute dogs. Hunger, awesome looking food that looks way better than it does in real life. And then logos. How to identify logos in ads. This is the facts, percentages, lots of words and information, charts and figures. So if somebody's trying to convince you to buy a new phone, for example, you might be looking at the facts, like how much does the phone cost? What is the memory on the phone? What's the battery life on the phone? We're going to be looking at the more specific percentages of those items. All right, so let's practice one more time with this is another ad. So if we look at this one, every generation has its heroes. This one is no different. So it says an army of one. It's got the U.S. Army logo here. So already we have some credibility. Obviously, depending on your perspective of the military, then we all are going to bring different emotional charges to ads like this. But because the credibility of the Army's on there, that's our ethos. Then we're looking at our pathos because every generation has its heroes. This one is no different. It's showing military personnel loading onto a plane for deployment. And so we're recognizing these men and women as heroes. So it's utilizing that ethos. So it's tugging on those heartstrings. All right, so we're going to take the quiz now. You're going to go to your course, you're going to click on quizzes, and you are going to select the week 4 quiz to answer the questions in regards to how to create an argument that persuades an audience to action. The last 2 letters of your access code are A and T, A and T. So you should have 5 total letters written down, 5 total letters. The last 2 are A and T. Please reach out to me if you have questions or if you need any help with this essay. I am happy to help you generate topics, help you identify evidence and claims and reasons. So don't hesitate to reach out if you need help. All right, talk to you soon.